Hey everybody, we're going to be looking at some of our play and stop button options today. These are things that maybe are a little bit more nuanced, but I found that once I understood them and implemented them in a way that made sense for my workflow, that it was a really huge game changer. So, for instance, we all know that we have the cycle bar, and by default, most of the time, if you have that turned on and you push play, it plays from the beginning of that cycle period. Now, I'm going to push play, and you'll see that it just plays right where my playhead is instead of that. Well, there's a few options that we can look at. They're under the Navigate menu option. We have the play button options and the stop button options. Now, for now, I've got all of the play button options turned off. Normally, the way that this is set up, it could be that you have two of these selected. And that means anytime that we have the cycle enabled, it'll play from the start of that cycle unless there's a marquee selection. Marquee is this tool. If I make that selection, you'll see it'll go to the beginning of that instead of the cycle. But if I turn off the marquee by just clicking away from it, then it'll go to the cycle. This also works for the other two options, selected region and from the play from last position. So if that's turned off, there's no marquee, but I have a region selected. But the minute I turn on the cycle, or the minute I turn on a marquee, so it's a hierarchy. It's going to go through all of those things and pick the one that is closest to the top of this list, including play from last locate position. So if I don't have any of those selected, it'll just push play. It'll go from the playhead. And then it'll go back to where it was starting the last time. Now, in my current setup, I actually have all four of these turned off. And that's because I like a different way of working using the stop button options. We have a similar list down here of a hierarchy, and they go from jump between marquee and project start if stopped, jump between cycle and project start if stopped, or jump between selected region and project start, or jump between last locate position and project start if stopped. What this looks like, I'm going to actually load up my cycle again. You'll see if I just push play, it'll be from the playhead. But I have a stop button on my Nectar Panorama CS12. And you can actually assign a stop to your typing keyboard if you want. The space bar is not a stop button. It's actually a play pause. But if I just push play and then hit it again to stop it, it stops it, but it's really pausing it. If I use the stop button, it'll snap to the beginning of the cycle, or if I push it again, it'll go to the beginning of the song. That way I can have like a verse selected if I'm looping something, and I can just push stop a couple times to navigate between the two of those. I like that. Now, just because we're not, starting at the beginning of the cycle, if we get to the cycle and it gets to the end of the cycle, it's still going to loop. So for instance, if I put that there, it'll push play. And so it loops, but then I can hit stop and go back and forth. This way I can go to the beginning of the song if I want to, or I can push stop again and go to the beginning of the cycle. Or if I'm not using a cycle, maybe I've just got a marquee area here. I can just push stop and it'll take me to the beginning of that or to the beginning of the song. I find this way is a lot more flexible for me because I have a stop button right in front of me that's really handy to be able to use. And so that takes me all around the place. And even if I have a cycle turned on and I want to just hear something, I can drop my playhead at any point in the song. And it takes me right to that place regardless of having the cycle. And I can move it around anywhere I want. If I want to get back to the beginning of the cycle, just push the stop key and it takes me there. That's one brief moment to hit that to take me to where I want to go. With all of these options, the really most important thing is just understanding that you can change them and customize it to how you want to work. You can set it up any number of ways, and perhaps that's one of Logic's greatest strengths, but also perhaps one of its biggest weaknesses, because if you don't fully understand what these options are, you're going to end up working one way and not realizing that you can customize it and change it. The minute you realize you can, you're going to be able to set some new patterns and get some new efficiencies that maybe you didn't have before. Are any of these the right way or the wrong way? Of course not. You can do this however you want and set this up however you want. And I think that that's a really great way to function. Okay, I hope this was useful. This is a little shorter video, mostly because I just want to get this tip and explain it. We're going to be doing some more of these type of videos because I feel like some of these basics are really critical to understand and to begin to implement into your workflow. Okay, that's it. Talk to you later.